Okay, so next to the last item that we're going to cover is pretty critical, though, data backup and management. So we're talking specifically about coming up with a backup and disaster recovery plan. What is a backup and disaster recovery plan?
It can get kind of swallowed up sometimes in IRP, although it shouldn't. Your backup and disaster recovery plan is really exactly what it says there. But to break it down more simply, is what are we backing up? That's the key thing. That goes back to assessing your data. But what are we backing it up? Where are we backing it up? How often we're backing it up? And then are we testing the backups? What frequency we're testing? Everything I just laid out there in some way, shape, or form will be on your cybersecurity liability questionnaire. Your disaster recovery plan is utilizing those backups. Something happened. Now we need the data out of the backups. I just want to make a note here. This is not the same as incident response. Incident response can deal with breaches. It can deal with, you're not going to back up your internet, although you can, but you get what I'm saying. This is unique and specific to, your data, that critical data that the liability insurance provider cares about, you care about, how it's backing up, how we're recovering. There's a couple of subsets there, but being offsite and DLP, but I'll leave those to Brendan.
Yeah. So before we move on, though, so some smaller organizations might kind of feel like going through the process of laying out a disaster recovery plan is maybe overkill. Why do you think even maybe the smaller, 5-person organization, 10-person organization, why do you think it's important to go ahead and just spend the time to knock that out?
And that's funny because my smaller kind of what we're protecting against, and this is what we're going to do when it all goes wrong. Just typing that out, again, you can see that moment of realization with decision makers that they're glad that it's done. It usually just takes somebody to walk them through it and demystify. Yeah. I just tell clients like, hey, set a meeting with me. I'll do it for you, and you guys are just going to ride along and say yes or no, and it's a 15-minute call a lot of the times if there's a pretty simple environment.
So, I'm blanking on this. What is it that the insurance questionnaire is asking about specific to disaster recovery? Is it just that whether you have one or not?
No. So they ask if you have one. That's usually in the section about policy and procedure. But then they start getting more specific about the backups. So they, what is backed up? Is the backup encrypted? Is it offsite? Which Brendan will talk about in a minute. Have you tested it? That kind of stuff. So the VUDR plan itself is usually up in the policy and procedure section, but the technical challenges are in there specifically below.
Sure. All right. So Brendan, cloud and offsite backup. Why is that a good idea to do?
Right. So, imagine there's a natural disaster or something that makes it so you don't have access to the stuff in the office anymore. Either the office
global pandemic.
Global pandemic, or the office has ceased to be somehow, hypothetically. You're going to want to have that data elsewhere, because if it's stored in just one place or maybe two places, and those two places are the same, then you have Do you want to stop it entirely? Do you want it to just notify you? That sort of thing. You don't have to just do it on email. You can do it on endpoints as well. Like, okay, so say I have a flash drive and I'm writing social security number, phone number, address, stuff like that to it. That's a portable device that, sometimes are small like that. That's really easy to get out of your control really quick. So do you want to, allow that? Do you want to report on it? Do you want to, block it entirely? And basically all DLP has those options where it's, you have like a report only or a block thing. So, obviously folks are kind of less wanting to block those types of things because it might get in the way of somebody doing some, their work. Yeah. So maybe they'll have just an approval or an alert process and, kind of check in with whoever it was later.
So I'm sure the insurance providers are looking at DLP for maybe PHI data specifically, but since we're on the topic, are there other items other than socials and, addresses that we have clients that are turning on in other areas other than PHI data that might be useful to an organization?
Yeah, I mean, when we see it turned on, most of the time it's specific to whatever. So government contractor, CUI, medical office, yeah. PHI, but there are other good ones that are turned on. I mean, you can configure, and I should let Brendan answer because he does way more of the configuration than I'll ever do. There's a lot of tunables in there that you can set up to, figuring out if you've assessed your risk correctly, exactly how to do your DLP.
Yep, and a lot of providers do have DLP that's like specific to a certain compliance or regulatory standard where they basically say ask you, okay, what compliance or regulations are you subject to, and we'll turn on all the notifications or settings for that specific one.
So here's the data that we're concerned about that we don't want to expose or get out, and now we turn on all the controls that are actually going to be looking for that format of data. Yeah.